JP Sears, welcome.
Thank you, Peter. I appreciate the welcome. It would have felt awkward if you invited me to be on the show and then he said, JP, you're not welcome here. I would have been confused. So, yeah, I'm happy to be here with you, brother.
Thank you very much. Now, just before we get into some meaningful questions, I got a pimple. It came on last night in the lead up to this, and I'm just wondering, spiritually, what does that mean?
Well, intuitively, what I definitely know is true about you is it's a karmic effect, the bad karma of your future self's past life, which would be this life for you. So I think that pimple is symbolizing that you are just, to the core of your essence, you're just a bad person.
That makes sense. The good news is it's really small. Does that mean that I'm just a small amount of a bad person?
No, it means you're a small person. You're a small, insignificant, really bad person.
Well, I can't get anything past you. So.
Yeah, it's not even me. I'm channeling this from my archangel named Jamal.
Jamal. Not one of the classics, but...
he's alternative. He's kind of like lives on the streets of wherever angels live, but he's more down to earth, though.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's what you want. Street smarts.
Especially an archangel, for sure.
Along with the angel cred that you get. So, JP, we all know and love your videos, a video series on spirituality, done properly, which is an alternate name for it. For example, I was telling you the other day, I was at this massive Tony Robbins event, and they play you on the screen. And,
yeah.
I was there, first of all, just watching the video because it's very, very funny. But secondly, as soon as it was over, telling everyone around me, hey, that's my mate JP. And we hadn't actually met yet at that point, but I felt this incredible connection and bond between us. How many people do you have that with?
Just you so far. I think weird minds think alike. I would guess we have a lot of common ground, and better said, I think weird hearts vibrate alike too.
That's very, very true. So can you tell us, the JP the man and JP the character, how much overlap is there?
Yeah, significant overlap. I think the character, on video when I have the headband on and I'm in my ultra spiritual persona, that, in my opinion, I might just sound like a cliche artist here, but screw it, I will. That character, in my opinion, is very much a real part of me. Right. He's not the whole me, but he's a part of me that I let come out. And actually, I think that character is a conglomeration of two parts of me inside, presented under the one flesh and bones of the one character. One part is a humorous part, a part with a very natural sense of humor. And the other part, I think, is a part of me that's very egocentric, very narcissistic, very arrogant. And I merge that arrogant part of me together with the humorous part, and there I have the character who is a part of me.
Yeah. And do you have other characters, or is this your main thing?
Well, I have many voices inside of my head, Peter, if that's what you're asking. And
do any of them come out?
They what? The one said no. That's his answer. I don't believe him, though.
Yeah.
Short answer to the lovely question is basically no. I don't have any other characters. For some videos, I've sort of like jumped into the role of a little character here or there. I played Daryl the atheist on How to Be an Atheist video. I think that's Daryl was what I called him.
Daryl does sound like an atheist. If your parents called you Daryl, you could not believe in God.
This proves there is no God.
That's right.
Growing up with. So, but that's like not a character with any like real roots inside of me. But Heck, for that matter, I'll be curious if another character with like real roots to a part of me emerges along the way.
Yep.
Who knows?
And so, what? In a moment, I want to dive back in your story to see where all this came from. But just before we go all the way back, which came first, your business or this character or the video series? What was the genesis?
Yeah, the business definitely came first. My main business is I do emotional healing work with people. I have a very busy client practice. I've been doing this for 14 years. And I do a lot of, have done a lot of retreats and workshops over the years. And I'm having to take a temporary leave of absence of that in order to kind of energize some other wonderful opportunities that are coming my way that need time and energy.
Yep.
And the comedy aspect with the videos and the character it's only a year and a half old.
Yep.
I've been doing YouTube videos for 3 years now, and starting off, I'm just doing sincere, serious life advice, self-help, self-empowerment, healing videos. And then about a year and a half into it, which is about a year and a half ago to date, somehow started to give myself permission to say, like, it's actually okay to be me, or at least for this part of me to be a part of me on camera. And it was certainly an experience I didn't know. It's kind of like you don't know how to do something that you've never done until you start doing it. Just like the baby or the child doesn't know how to walk until it fumbles around and learns to walk, lets the walking express itself through, it's almost mind puzzling because it's like, well, how do I do what I don't know how to do? I've never done it. So it's definitely been a learning process, and I dare say a growing process for me to allow this comedy part to come out and be a part of what I express to the world.
Yeah. So I gather there'd be large numbers of people out there who are watching your video, think it's hilarious, are inspired by that, but their immediate first thought after that is, oh, I couldn't do that. Like, he's so perfect, I couldn't possibly match up to that. But what you're really saying is this is a journey.
Oh, for sure. To those people who say, well, he does it, but I couldn't do my version of it, I would look them in the eye and say, you're full of crap. Yep. I'm not going to validate your self-limiting story. I do have that inner critic, that self-defeating voice inside of me. So it's a real part of me, and it's full of crap. Just like I think other people are full of crap.
So how important was that first year and a half of not being funny to get to letting it out?
Yeah, hidden treasure is never on the surface. You always got to dig through dirt to get there. So I think that year and a half was very important. And in this less than self-flattering analogy, I think part of what it implies is those serious videos were dirt. I don't, and I still do serious videos. I've got way more serious videos than I do comedy videos. To me, that's the heart and soul of what I do. Yet, the samurai sword needs time to grind against the stone in order to sharpen, and something in hindsight that I can look back and say, oh, that's how it worked for me, and something I always share with people if they say, oh, I can't do videos well. How do you do it well? If I believe their experience that I do videos well, I'll take it. I'm needy enough to accept that compliment. And for me, the solution to doing videos well or anything well is be willing to do a crappy job in the beginning. Yep. If you look at a 12-month-old who's learning to walk, they're a crappy walker. Yep. Like, they are really not good at it. But their willingness to be crappy at walking is what allows them to become very efficient, fluid, and graceful with walking. And similar, I know you're big into like shatter your comfort zone, which I love. Like, you throw people out of planes. Hopefully you have their permission, but maybe with other permission, it's just like more discomfort.
Every so often we just grab people and like you're coming to look people right in the eye and say, you need this, and then just throw them out of a plane.
And then after they call the cops on you, if they live through it and you're under arrest, well, you had a breakthrough.
I wear a wig.
Let's
I
sure it's not
I don a
wig.
wig of red hair and a headband, and I reckon they'll never catch me.
So it sounds like a very handsome costume, Peter. Wait, on the note of discomfort, when people ask me, I'm uncomfortable in front of the camera, like it's scary. How do you get comfortable in front of the camera? Be willing to be in front of the camera and be very uncomfortable for a while. And I would dare say that idea that I think it's important for me. It may not work for everybody, but to me, the idea of be willing to do that which makes you uncomfortable, that being the solution to get comfortable at something, I think that's pretty universal. Anytime we're looking to develop a new skill, refine a gift, our gifts never come out polished.
Yeah, that's right. And from a business point of view, those early videos that a person does, should they show them publicly, or should they rack and stack 100 videos in a row and release their 101st one?
Yeah, here's my opinion. Show them publicly. If you're not showing them publicly, you're avoiding your discomfort.
Yeah.
If you make a video and don't put it out there, you haven't made a video.
Yeah.
You've done some steps to making a video. So that refinement process, of putting it out, man, if you're a human being, you'll feel pressure, you'll feel internal criticism. But if you're trying to bypass it, sidestep it, then the diamond inside of you, just to be super cliche, it's not going to have the pressure that it needs in order to really develop. And in hindsight, once you've been doing videos for a few years or whatever, you can go back and delete those old ones. However, I would invite people to not even do that.
Yep.
I have videos, the very first videos I've made, which I can look back and be like, wow, I would definitely do that differently today. I've made the conscious choice. I want to leave those up because I don't want to deceive people. There's someone who's looking to either start their own video YouTube channel or start off doing something, and I want them to see how clumsy I was in the beginning. Otherwise, it feels like I'm trying to deceive people, which I think is a disservice to them.
Yeah, I totally agree. We've got a saying at scaryandexciting.com, which is, Beyonce is ruining millions of lives. And the reason for that is because young women and men, I guess, as well, are looking at what they see as absolute perfection. Like she just does it right every single time. But really, you've got to look at young Beyonce. And I don't know how far back in her past you need to go before you get some raw, gritty, unpolished diamonds. But it's there.
Sure.
And
absolutely.
And it's that willingness to pursue that.
For sure. And I love the saying you guys have, Beyonce ruins lives. And I would also, add to that the idea of self-responsibility, where all of us can look at someone who we admire, whether it's a great business person, a great singer, a great athlete, whoever it is. We trick ourselves if we're only willing to see what they do great.
Yeah.
And granted, their public profile isn't going to be littered with like, here's my biggest dysfunctions. Like it's not part of our public profiles, and it doesn't need to be. If we remind ourselves they're a human being, they poop out of their butt too. They have their sloppy, unpolished stuff.
Yeah.
And we have to be willing to see that. And even if we can't see the specifics of it, I think it's very beneficial and empowering to ourselves to at least see that we can't see their dirt.
Yeah. I remember my next door neighbor that I grew up when I was a child, and he's a very distinguished Tom Selleck type of man, very handsome, thick, distinguished moustache.
I like the distinguished mustache.
His son, incidentally, went on to, who was just 2 years older than me, went on to become the first winner of Big Brother in Australia, the TV show. And so it was after his son had won Big Brother that I ran into him at the local petrol station, gas station, and I was saying, how's things going? And we talked about the ins and outs of his son's newfound fame. And he said, in this smooth voice, he's like, but you know, Peter, everyone has to wipe their own ass in the morning. And it was a great leveler. I was in my early 20s, and suddenly I looked at the world differently and better. It was a really good frame for me to consider the rest of the world.
Man, I think those are wise words. I really do.
Yeah.
Everyone has to wipe their own ass in the morning.
Could we make a bumper sticker or a T-shirt? Just like, and it could be in the first person. Like you're famous, right? You could wear a T-shirt that says "I wipe my own ass," and just let people know.
I like that. I like that. Yes. Let's put that T-shirt into production. I know we'll sell at least one of them because I'd buy one. Would you buy one, by the way, Peter?
I'd buy one for me and one for my mother.
All right, so we've got 3 sold. I think that's a solid foundation. That's a solid business plan.
That's as solid an idea, like three T-shirt sales. I've started businesses on less than that. So...
I love that. I don't know whether to be. This is great, man. I didn't expect that we'd have such a solid plan. I mean, this is a startup. It really is.
It really is. And maybe we could make them out of some advanced recyclable material that no one's thought of yet.
Yeah, I think I don't believe in recyclable material anymore.
Repurposing.
Yeah, repurposing is definitely a step in the right direction. I think we need to recycle recycled material. Yes. I mean, let's quit half-assing it and making shirts out of recycled material. Like, let's give a damn about the environment and only use recycled material.
Exactly. I think that's useful.
I think I'm going to put a derivative of that quote up on Facebook here when we're done. It's golden.
Well, that could be a while because we're not going to be done for about 9.5 hours at the rate we're going at the moment. What's your spiritual animal?
It's a good question. I'm going to have to go with dolphin on this. Is that the right answer?
Yeah, absolutely. They're friendly, but they also attack sharks and. No, they know how to stand up for themselves.
Absolutely. And apparently, from what I'm told, dolphins are quite sexual animals, as all animals are, hence the ones that aren't extinct have a sex drive. But apparently dolphins are like really sexual.
Well, that's why I basically hate pandas, because they refuse to do what everyone else is trying so hard to do. They're just like, pandas could have sex on tap if they wanted, and they're just like, I'm not even interested.
Yeah, it's like, mate, I'm going to go get a little more bamboo instead of having sex with that mediocre-looking panda lady over there.
They have to eat for about 16 hours a day. That's a problem.
I've never met a person who says why I hate pandas so much. Like, I'm going to mark this day down in the history books of my life. Like, it's probably never going to happen again, Peter. Like, this is the day, March. What the heck is the date? March. It's May something anyway. No, May of 2016.
It's March on the Mayan calendar.
That's right. So March 1975 on the Mayan calendar. This is the day I heard someone say why I hate pandas so much. Yeah. You know, I think the psychological profile of someone who doesn't hate pandas, you gotta wonder about those people, don't you?
They just probably don't have an archangel.
Yeah. And they don't care about themselves, clearly. And they don't love their children.
That's right. Their children should be taken away.
Let me write this down. Why I hate pandas. This is going to develop into something.
So,
Feel free, Peter. I wouldn't pay attention either way.
where were you born and raised?
A part of the U.S. called Ohio. It's one of our states, one of the more boring ones in the middle of the country. So very much farm town, small community.
And so how big was the town that you grew up in?
It's, I grew up on, not in the town, but kind of out in the middle of nowhere. But the town, that middle of nowhere, was kind of orbiting. Town of about, I believe, 25,000 people.
Right. Wow.
I never counted them, but the street sign said 25,000. I'm like, wow.
You probably
It's
could
amazing
count them.
that there's exactly like 25,000, not like 25,009, 25,123. But yeah, it was very consistent. And it was years before the population even increased or decreased at all. It was 25,000 straight through.
I guess.
Which is ironic. It's like that town was filled with people whose spirit animal was the panda. They weren't reproducing.
That's right.
Hence the population was level.
Well, I guess you have to know that someone's about to die in order to have a child, just to keep it exactly even.
And that's environmentally responsible. If you love the planet, don't contribute more than you.
And also financially responsible, because you can have the christening and the funeral on the same day. It's the same party.
In 10 years, when I'm needing a session with a therapist, I imagine myself on the couch and then the same guy who said he hates pandas said you should have the christening on the same day as a loved one's funeral. I haven't been able to recover from that, Doc. Write me another prescription.
Now, this is a loose segue from prescription to talking.
Speaking of prescriptions for the trauma of dead people christenings.
But you have a prescription. I believe you're a gluten-free type of person. And did you find that about 12 years ago or something like that?
Actually somewhere between 12, I want to say maybe 14 years ago.
And how did that come about? Did you feel unwell and go for tests? Was it pretty simple?
No, I felt pretty decently well, but I got into studying nutrition and found out like gluten-free is a thing, and I thought, well, why don't I try this out? And so I didn't have any kind of negative health issues that had accumulated that I was experiencing, so I just went gluten-free. And then a couple of years later, I was doing some work with a naturopathic doctor, and one of the tests he ran, probably just to rack up the bill, he's like, let me test you for gluten intolerance. I'm like, I don't eat gluten. He's like, well, you're not going to pay me for the test unless I test you. So anyway, he did the test. He's like, yeah, you're gluten intolerant. Yeah. I'm like, I appreciate finding that out because I'm already gluten-free.
Yeah, my youngest brother, he was having a number of problems, and then it took years because they didn't do that test. But as soon as they did that test and he went gluten-free, everything just fixed itself immediately.
It's amazing what can happen.
Yeah, it was very, very fast. So that's quite amazing. And so you're a yoga aficionado?
Not so much. No. I've got a video called How to Take a Yoga Photo for Instagram.
One of my favorites.
I'm definitely not aficionado. Yoga makes me feel very good, yet I don't do it consistently.
Okay. And are you doing the gluten-free? What's the rest of your diet like?
Yeah, the rest of my diet, I do my best to eat whole foods. Not perfect at that, but kind of like if I can do about 80%.
The picture I have immediately in my brain is you're like whole foods. I'm just picturing you eating a whole cow, for instance. in one sitting, because it's got to be
Ju-
whole.
Just it's like I'm gonna finish the apple, and if I eat meat, I will finish the animal. It's kind of like a lion on African savanna with
Yeah.
its whatever lions eat. I assume big animals.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm sitting down to dig into this cow. But yeah, I eat a vegan diet. I also eat a meat eating diet. I'm an equal opportunity nutritional employer. But yeah, I do my best to eat whole foods, organic, and yeah, that's I've gone through different phases of high fat, low fat, high protein, like protein, medium fat, medium carbs, and every variation. And now I just kind of eat what I'm drawn to, and I make up a story that says that's intuitive eating, that's good for me. Truth is, I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
probably just over the idea of being obsessive compulsive about the minutia of nutrition.
Yeah. It sounds like you've got a life philosophy which is based on experimentation.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. I think some of the experimentation, to borrow a little Buddhism for a second, is experience the extreme so you can find your space in between. And I think that's what balance is. And I think experimentation is finding our balance points. Like, yeah, okay, too much of this, too much plant stuff. Like I feel low on energy or whatever. Like, oh, now I'm eating too caveman. That's so experimenting to find essentially our truth of the matter of any given matter. To me, is important. I mean,
Yeah.
I think we all have a lot in common as weird human beings. And we also, one of the things that we have in common is that we all have differences. So the unique individual that we are, I mean, we all have different fingerprints. So I don't think that's the only thing different about us. So I think we ultimately do owe it to ourselves to find our truth in the matter. And I think experimentation is an important deal to help us find our truth.
What other overarching life philosophies do you have that go with that, or maybe you even have some that go against it?
Well, one of my philosophies is to not have any philosophies, which is
That's
a
a good
little
one.
self-defeating. I
Yeah.
haven't figured out how to get out of that self-contradictory trap. So, I do. One of my philosophies, in addition to the first one, is a philosophy that works for us will eventually work against us.
Right.
The pair of pants you wear as a 5-year-old will work well for you, and
Yes.
eventually they're not going to work well for you. And to me, that borrow a little Buddhism again for a second. That's non-attachment. Yeah, grab what works well for you,
Yeah.
but don't be so attached to it that you stay clung to the life preserver that once was very buoyant for you and
Yeah.
helped you, but now it's waterlogged and it's like holding on to concrete. But we're very attached to it, even
Yeah.
though it's working against us. But we're blind and unwilling to see how it's working against us. So I love that idea of,
Yeah.
I guess, which is part of my philosophy.
Absolutely. When we're working with people with their limiting beliefs in their life, we always try and point out, not that people always get it, but that you take this belief out and install a better one, that better one will become its own prison at some point in time.
Amen.
Yeah. So, which I don't think that people always want to hear when they're getting past a big life issue, that they're going to grow and then hit the wall again.
Yeah, I would agree. They don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it when
Yeah.
I'm in a life issue feeling inherently unstable. All I want is stability. So don't tell me that this new stability I'm grabbing onto will soon become an instability. I think one of the things my mind doesn't like to entertain is that infinity is always bigger than I think it is. So I do believe that our growth is potentially infinite. So us grabbing onto a stable point and holding it onto it relentlessly means we're denying the potential of our growth.
Yeah. Uh, going back to your childhood, because I don't like to do these things in order. but rather cherry pick at the best bits. Do you have any defining moments that have developed you into the man you are today? As you look back on your upbringing, your childhood, you can go, that really shaped me, either because you were drawn towards something or you're like, there's no way I'm ever dealing with that ever again.
Well, I think so. One of them, I go back to a time I would have been 8 years old, and that was the first time my dad told me and your mom are getting divorced. They actually ended up not getting divorced, but they separated, and a few months later came back together, only to then separate again. But that was a very inherently unstable time for me. And I just snapped my fingers, so I got to say something good. I think that was the time that, to a large degree, I became very emotionally disconnected.
Right.
And really, without knowing it, but it really concealed my fears, my sadness, my grief, my shame, my anger, because it didn't feel like I had a stable place to put that.
Yep.
Dad didn't seem, emotionally available. Mom's emotionally upset as hell.
Yep.
So I'm not going to lean on a fence post that's already fallen down all through the eyes of my child self, which is very arrogant to say, well, mom can't heal my emotions, but it's through the naive eyes of my 8-year-old self. So I went into a deep emotional cocoon, very disconnected, became very dysfunctionally stoic for till I was about probably 22. And but that time of being emotionally disconnected, I think, was very painful, ironically, in a way that I didn't feel it because it was numb. But I believe the pain of being emotionally disconnected and not feeling the aliveness that all of our emotions provide for us in a feeling way made me very thirsty. Emotions are so important to me, and I know it because I've lived so long without them.
And then at 22, how did you reconnect, or how did you begin to reconnect?
Yeah, I went to the first workshop with a man who would become a wonderful mentor to me, a guy named John McMullen. So it was December 3rd, 2003. I took a workshop with them, arrogantly showing up like, I'm going to learn some emotional healing techniques to help other people. Because they need
it.
They sure do, don't they, Peter?
Absolutely. Not me, but other people.
Absolutely. And indeed, they do need it. Yet what I found out, John McMullen, he is a very wise human being. He's very intuitive, so he could see things in me that I couldn't see. So he brought up an issue that I had no idea was an issue, which actually came back to my parents separating and how my sister would depend on me for emotional support, but I pushed her away. So it's like, I had no idea that that's even an issue. But when he brought it up, my floodgates just open. I'm just crying. I'm in tears and feeling incredibly like out of control. Like, how am I crying? I don't cry, and where are these emotions coming from? But that place of shattering my comfort zone of emotional disconnection, I think, was very miraculous. Not that I was automatically healed. It was just the initiation of a progressive journey that I'm certainly still on, and I hope I continue to be willing to be on that journey.
Yeah. And so what do you think would have happened if you'd been so stoic that you hadn't turned up to that class?
Well, yeah, if I was visited by the ghost of Christmas future to show me what would my future potentially look like if I didn't show up, didn't splash into the aliveness of my emotions, I would guess I would have eventually had to start abusing myself in some way, be it alcohol, overeating, junk food eating, abusive forms of exercise, which are certainly a real thing. But all those...
CrossFit. Sorry.
Bless you, Peter. Are you okay? Yeah, for sure. But CrossFit's on my list of videos to do, by the way.
Awesome.
So,
I cannot wait.
in my opinion, self-abuse and addiction is a form, any form of addiction, gambling is a form of self-abuse. I do believe any addiction, self-abuse is a symptom of us not feeling our feelings,
Yep.
because we need to feel something to validate our experience of being alive. We can know we're alive intellectually, but we have a hell of a lot more to our being than just our intellectual knowing that we're alive. So if we know we're alive, but we don't have feelings to help us feel a sense of being alive, that's a living hell. So if we're not willing to feel our emotional feelings, well, we got to feel something else.
Yep.
So if that's the routine rush of sugar going through our chemistry, it's a feeling. And we need that. We need a feeling. And if that's the best we're willing to do, great. And if it's, I need to drink in order to feel the euphoria of alcohol, and then the temporary symptomatic shame the next day of
Yep.
having gotten out of control, then that's what I feel.
Yep.
So I would guess I would have had to have gotten into some kind of addictive, self-abusive behavior.
Yeah.
Or self-sabotage, like always, whatever, lose my money so that I can shame myself, even though that's feeling a feeling. That's a symptomatic feeling of compensating for avoiding a deeper, more core emotion.
Yeah. Do you have any beliefs that other people think are crazy, like, or worldview?
I hope so. I believe now. I believe pandas are bad. Which there's one other person in the world that agrees with me. I love pandas. Never met a panda. I might just be a hypocrite. I don't know if I like pandas.
Yeah, well, you might meet them and just go, "Wow, he was right."
A belief I have, I don't know if it's true. I just believe that I believe the belief, and I'm doing my best to not believe all my beliefs. Yet a belief nonetheless is that we're all delusional as hell. I believe that how I see the world has nothing to do with how the world is. It's just my delusional, kaleidoscopic perception of it. And to me, that's very liberating, actually. I don't have to put the burden on myself of believing that I'm the dictator of how the world is. I don't need to fight for my beliefs if I can not take myself so seriously, like I'm a delusional human being.
My favorite delusion is the belief I'm a lucky person. And it means I just walk around and take everything in my favor. You know, this interview goes well, I'm like, wow, I'm so lucky. This interview doesn't go well, I'm like, thank God I'm not him. And everything's a win in that way. But you do have me thinking from before how that might turn out to be a trap. And so you've basically ruined my favorite belief. If you were dictator of the world or of America,
You're welcome.
what changes would you make if you were dictator of the world or even just America? Which rules the world?
Yeah, it's one and the same. Thank you for realizing that. You know, to be honest with you, I think the idea of having a world dictator, in a way, certainly we do. It's the U.S. and whoever runs the U.S., I'm not sure. We pretend it's our president. So I think a change I would institute is that there isn't a dictator.
Right.
I don't know how to do it, but I would strip away the power from the powers that be and give it back to the people.
Yep.
And whatever system that is, in 50 years, it would need to be burned down and start over again.
So just a 50-year burning.
Just a 50-year burning for sure.
A bi-century raising of the fields. I like it.
It's like a witch hunt.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Except you don't have to hunt. You just burn everyone and everything.
I love that for sure. And by the way, as a dictator, even if one of my dictatorial rules is that there's no more dictators, which is absolutely a byproduct of my dictatorship, well, I would want to be careful about that.
Right.
So my dictatorship of non-dictatorship, I would also want to realize that how I try and change the world shouldn't be according to what I want.
Yep.
Shouldn't be according to what I think the world should be. Because hell, after all, I am a delusional person. So I think there's, yeah, I couldn't even imagine being a dictator and having my ego completely in check. I think it'd be so hard and probably a pretty thankless
It
job.
would be. I think Russia is a good test case. Now I'm going to regret that when I later on become King of Australia and have to deal with Russia, and then they play
It's
this.
like, Putin, them is just jokes I was saying.
Yeah, no, that is a future problem. On politics still, you've got a US presidential race, which seems to last for 2 years or so out of the 4 years that they've voted in. But do you have any preference or comments on where it's at the moment?
No, I'm super ignorant on politics, and if I were to have a justification to defend my position, my first defense would be I don't need to defend my position.
Yeah.
My second defense would be, I haven't even seen a single debate, these kind of childish arguments of the candidates belittling each other and then who can tell people what they want to hear the most. And then the people pretend like, oh, yeah, that's really what you stand for,
Yeah.
instead of like, I can see you just want to tell us what we want to hear. So I haven't seen a single debate between Hillary and Trump and Sanders. Um, so I don't know. I wouldn't convince. I wouldn't try to convince anybody. Don't pay attention to that stuff. Pay attention to it if you're called to it. All I know is it doesn't feel like a wise investment of my time. And who am I going to vote for? I have no idea, to be honest with you. I haven't voted since I was 18, so I don't know if I will vote. And again, not endorsing,
Yeah.
don't vote. I'm just saying I don't.
Yeah.
And the idea of how can I make a difference in the world, to me, doesn't boil down to, our population's like 300 million people. I think it's pathetic to think my major difference is the 1/300 millionth of a difference I can make with my vote. I think what I express every day is the, kind of Gandhi's thing, the change that I wish to see in the world that I'm fighting. So that's all just a big defense, probably because I'm afraid of judgment of, you don't vote, JP, let's burn you at the stake. You're not an American.
I think they do still do that over there. The absolute Philistines.
In the good parts of the U.S., we do that.
In Australia, it's compulsory to vote, so we don't have a choice. Yeah. And I think it's a better system, but that doesn't mean it necessarily gets a better results. Does that make sense? As in, sure. The reason I think it's a better system is no one can not vote and then complain about who got voted in. At least in our way, you vote, and if you didn't get your guy or girl, then you can complain. But under your one, you could not vote and then complain, which seems very self-indulgent.
Absolutely, and it's beautiful. You get the golden ticket into complaining ship.
Yeah.
Either way, oh, he won, that's horrible, or she won, oh, that's horrible. I get to intensify my victimhood of complaining either way.
I've got a theory.
It's so good to be an American, Peter.
Well, my youngest brother is trying his hardest to join you. He's over in LA, in Hollywood, and he likes it. And I won't tell you why he likes it, but he really likes it over there. So I've got a theory on why the political situations in Australia and America are so bad. And my theory is that if you go back approximately 100 years, you had the end of imperialism. the Germans had a Kaiser, the Russians had a Tsar, the English had a king and queen, and so did all of the other countries in Europe. America wasn't really a superpower just yet. They were a very newish country and yet to flex their muscle. And so in World War One, basically you had all these empires crumble and a resetting of the order. And I believe, and a lot of people think I'm crazy, I think that that's what we're approaching again, is the end of this ridiculous system. And all that's happening is that how ridiculous it is being shown, and that we shouldn't try and fix it. We should try and accelerate it. We should try and speed up the demise so that we can get through to whatever because clearly democracy was better than imperialism. And then the faster we can burn this one, we get to the next great thing, which I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But it'll emerge.
Man, that's an interesting theory, and it makes sense. It doesn't mean, I don't know if it makes sense as a good thing or a bad thing, but it makes sense. And to me, it's also, as true as it sounds, it's also scary. Like, wow, burning down of this system, what does that look like in literal reality? And, certainly fingers crossed, it's a very peaceful burn.
Yes, I think it can be as we transition to from political leaders to YouTube leaders.
I loved where you were going with that, Peter. I didn't see that coming, and all I can say is I agree with you.
That's the new world order this time. What does the future hold for you?
Yeah, well, unless I die in my sleep tonight,
Smothered
the future,
by pandas.
Say that one more time.
Panda suffocation.
Yeah, from statistics I've seen, 3 out of 4 people that are killed by pandas make up 75% of all people who are killed by pandas.
Absolutely. Which is like 0.75 if I'm not mistaken.
It's close. I don't do decimal points, bro. The future. Well, I do hope that the future does hold some mystery for me, some surprises, things that I can't predict.
Yeah.
And some aspects of the future that are coming to fruition. I'll keep doing my videos, and I keep working with clients. I'm having to reduce how many days a week I can work with clients. I've got a book that is coming out in early 2017.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. It's written through my ultra spiritual character's perspective. It's called How to Be Ultra Spiritual.
Is it just
13 in it?
You open it and it's just blank.
Yeah. And we're charging a premium for it.
That's right.
Because if there were words on the pages, you would be distracted from the book that you should write.
And I guess it takes until 2017 to put the energy into each book.
Absolutely. So I haven't been sleeping. I've just been doing a lot of Reiki on the stacks of books around. So I'm excited about that. I really put my heart and soul into that. It was an amazing creative project. And there's I've been talking to some various people for a while, but it looks like there's going to be something moving forward with some television production around my ultra spiritual stuff. So I'm looking forward to that mystery. I've never done TV, so it'll be a new world for me. So that's some of it. I mean, that's me. The Beyonce syndrome. Like I just told you about all the good stuff. Like I'll probably get angry too. I'll probably have some mild leakage in my pants here and there.
There's 3 types that I can think of, and only one is good.
But knock on wood, we'll have a good kind of leakage.
Well, knock on wood is how it works for me. So
I've met match.
All the single ladies out there, which is a hilarious Beyonce reference, want to know, are you single? Do you have a partner?
I am single. I used to have a partner up until probably about 3 or 4 months ago. So we had, the thing was, Peter, we're going to need an hour here for this therapy session. I told her that her vibration just simply wasn't high enough for me.
You
And she
can,
just couldn't
you can
understand
change
that.
the
She wouldn't,
setting.
yeah, and she wouldn't understand it,
Yeah,
just got defensive. And I said that just proves you're a bad listener,
yeah,
too. So,
yeah.
aside from that, yeah, been out of that relationship. Still friends with. It was a good, friendly, amicable parting of ways where we told each other, "You're not good enough for me anymore." So, yeah, moral of this whole discussion, Peter, is I am single.
Then just dial 1-800 JP Sears and they'll reach you there. 45 cents a minute.
Absolutely. Yeah, 45 cents a minute, whole application process.
Yeah.
So yeah, the phone's ringing off the hook. Actually, I'm going to have to silence this. The team of uh, what do you call people that answer phone, like operators?
Yep.
That whole team of people that I don't pay very well. They're busy right
I've
now.
just understood in corporate parlance what an operations team is. They answer phones. I've got a friend who is
Nobody calls phones.
very proud to be COO of a company, chief of operations, and I now know what they actually do.
Like I'm the secretary.
Yeah.
I answer the phone all day.
What's your view on antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication?
It's a great question. I think any kind of medication, I know pharmaceuticals get a bad rap, and honestly, a lot of it's deserved with the way pharmaceuticals are prescribed. I think they themselves are a gift. They're a powerful tool, and like any tool, in the right time, right place, right setting, with a right knowledgeable doctor, for the right person, I think they're helpful. And I don't think their time is every time, every place, nor do I think they're a first line of addressing depression.
So
So,
what would the first line be then?
yeah, great question. The first line, I believe, is feel your feelings. I think depression oftentimes is a manifestation of us filling our basement up with stuff that we don't want to feel. And after a while, we have so much gravity pulling us down to what we keep in our basement is this vague sense of depression. It doesn't seem to be specific about anything. And it's a lot of suffering in depression.
Yeah.
So feel feelings, and certainly that's not going to do it for everybody. I do highly value working with a professional, be they a therapist, a coach, a wise person sitting in the park. And I would also endorse the idea, whether it's second, third line of addressing, um, having good nutrition. For us to have the biochemical potential to even have a balanced feeling mood, we need the building blocks to make our neurotransmitter chemicals in our brain. I mean, we can be super enlightened, but feel crappy inside of us because our biochemical reality is essentially a bunch of broken glass going through our neurotransmitter systems.
Yeah.
So I think good nutrition is not perfect, obsessive compulsive, but good, healthy nutrition for us is helpful. And then, when the ingredient of time mixed in with any of those solutions, I think needs to be there. And when those don't provide much headway, then I think it's very reasonable for us to consult with the qualified doctor or psychiatrist who can assess whether or not medication is going to be helpful for us in the short to medium term.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got to figure out between having a bad day and wanting to kill yourself. There's a scale somewhere there, but people don't wake up at the end of that journey. It progresses, and I think that we've got to delay the medication in that journey, but not take it out.
For
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely. JP, if you could give a piece of advice or even a piece of your mind to all the people watching, what would be one thing that a message that you really want to get out into the world?
Yeah, don't apologize for being you. I think so many of us posture ourselves psychologically and behaviorally where we're perpetually living in a posture of apologizing for who we are. Example, before I was expressing my comedy on video, I was apologizing for that part of me by withholding it. It was
Yep.
like, dear world, sorry that this part of me is there. I'll keep this noisy kid of mine inside. So don't apologize for who you are. Do your best to not abide by people's expectations or what you think their expectations are. Those are things a lot of people worship, things that parts of me worship. And I think it's very disrespectful of ourselves.
Yeah.
And lastly, I would dare say our true satisfaction in life, as well as our gifts, uh, I believe are found outside of our comfort zone. So a willingness to get uncomfortable, man. In fact, if I've given a few things, but if I could only give one, be willing to be uncomfortable,
Yeah.
I think is the most important thing.
And not just once. That's like forever.
That's, yeah, it's like if it is just once, that's not really being
Yeah.
uncomfortable because we have the security in mind, like I'm only going to do this once.
Yeah.
Therefore, yes, I'm getting uncomfortable, but I'm kind of comforted by the idea of knowing it's only going to be once. I'll never do it again.
Yeah.
Can you do something uncomfortable every day,
Yeah.
or as close to it as you can?
Yeah. I've got some more rapid fire questions to finish us off here. Firstly, when are you most motivated? Is it under pressure or is it when you're inspired? When do you really get up and get things done?
It's a good question. A little bit for all of the above, but when I think my motivation for more the creative sense comes is when I have open time, there's no deadlines, and I allow myself to get inspired. When I'm well rested, there's a lot of creative motivation.
Yeah.
And then there's kind of the busyness motivation where I've got to plow through 100
Yeah.
emails and do this, this, and this. Things that don't necessarily require a lot of right brain
Yeah.
creative energy. Deadlines work well for me there. I don't like them, but they do work well for me.
Isn't that fascinating? I'm almost exactly the opposite of you. My
Interesting.
creativity turns on under extreme pressure. So I have to create that for myself. But for doing tasks, deadlines don't work. I'll just go, no, fuck it, I'm not doing them. So I'm actually exactly the opposite. And
It's because you live below the equator.
that's what it is. I'm upside down. I'm an upside down
And
person.
America is right side up.
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Absolutely. I like that if you create an atlas, you would put the USA front and center up the top.
Because that's where
That's where it
But
belongs.
yeah, nonetheless, it is very fascinating hearing that you're 100% different.
Yeah. And when I found that out was 5 years before I acknowledged that that was okay to actually do it that way. But doing that is like, oh, okay, well, I don't turn on unless there's some extreme pressure. Let's go get some. Let's make it happen. And I think a lot of people are still walking around with how they think things should work. Well, I'll gather a good team around me. And like for me, that I love it, but it's not the difference that makes a difference.
Yeah.
Why do you do what you do?
It's a great question. I'm going to have to give you at least 2 answers.
That was the number I have allocated.
I'm just a pawn in the chess game of how you're controlling the universe around you through the law of attraction.
Well, since you told me the name of your archangel, it was easy. I just tapped right in. and I'm inside your head.
You hacked my account.
I guess
You
the
know,
password.
the first answer, and it's the answer that I like the best, but it is probably only half the equation, is I'm called to do
Mm-hmm.
what I do. Um, I do feel my life is in service to a purpose, and I believe everybody's is. The question is, are you aware of the
Yeah.
purpose, and are you willing to go outside of your comfort zone, which is the grounds where a lot of that purpose is served? So I have a note written on my desk. It's been on my desk for longer than I've had this desk, and I look at the note every
What
day, and
wants to
it's
live through me?
yeah,
Yeah.
super faded at this point. What wants to live through me?
Yeah.
And to me, that's saying in words that I love, but it's saying, what is my purpose? And can I realize it? It's my reality. It may not be other people's choice, but my reality is that my purpose isn't created by what I want. It's not created by my mind. It's created from somewhere beyond who I think I am, and my job is to receive it and allow it to live
Yeah.
through me. It's kind of like letting the art of life come through the painter.
And do you feel good about this calling? Because for me, I've often said that I'm the reluctant hero in my own story.
Mm,
I feel very much like I have a destiny that I'm being dragged to, kicking and screaming, like I
yeah,
don't want to go. I want to do cool stuff, but it's like, no, you definitely have to go in this direction.
yeah, yeah. I love that. I used to do more kicking and screaming, and I seem to be pretty excited about it now. You know, most of the collective whole of me is. And I think the second part of my answer is going to speak to what you just brought up. The second part of my answer of why I do what I do is it gratifies my ego in a very dysfunctional sense, very codependent, illusion of power, illusion of control, illusion of I'm significant because of this, illusion of I'm valuable because I did this and look
Mm-hmm.
at how people like it, yay me. Um, that's dysfunctional as hell, but that dysfunction also has a function for me, which is it allows my ego, if you will, to not kick and scream as much
Mm.
anymore, where I can realize like there is a part of me that feels gratified when I see, more subscribers come to my channel.
Yeah.
I'm very gratified when I see this many million views on a video. Very gratified when someone says, "JP, working with you has really helped me to change my life." And I'm grateful that I'm aware of that. Two, I'm grateful that there's more to my equation.
Yeah.
That's a part of me. And there's another part of me that kind of looks at whatever the hell my purpose is and says, I'm in service to you. My ego says, well, how can I use this to feel gratified about myself?
So they work perfectly together.
Apparently, it's pretty interesting.
What's the scariest thing you've ever done?
Oh, I love it. Mm, wow. Mm. It, what comes to my mind is April 11th, 2012, night before my birthday. April 12th was my birthday for those who aren't very good at math.
Send
Um,
presents.
it's I broke up with the girlfriend I was with that night. And I've broken up with other girlfriends and I've been broken up with, and that was terrifying for me. It was the relationship had become a cocoon that was closing down, and I had plenty of dysfunction, plenty of lessons that I needed to learn and hadn't learned them at the time, probably
Yeah.
still haven't. So, but nonetheless, it was time to leave the relationship, and it was so scary
And was it
to,
scary because of what it meant for you, or because you didn't want to hurt the other person?
yeah, both. What it meant to me was I'm hurting the other person.
Right.
What it meant to me is also crashing into the scary reality and kind of admitting it in 3 dimensions that she is not the person that I told myself she was, nor will she ever be the woman I wanted her to be. And another part of that reality was an admission, a surrender into, and I'm not who I wanted to be for her.
Yeah.
The idea of someone hurting and me feeling responsible is so scary for me. Even though intellectually I can spiritualize, nope, they're her emotions and it's her experience and all that happy stuff, but screw it. My codependent ego feels responsible, and that's hard to deal with. To me, it's much easier to have pain inflicted on me directly than to see someone else hurt, let alone see someone else hurt who a delusional part of me tells me I'm the one that made him hurt.
Yeah. Do you have any daily rituals?
Cuddling with pandas on the daily, for sure. Wouldn't that be interesting? Like, yes, I have a panda farm in my backyard.
Some people do. There's some people that their full-time job is to panda wrangle. That's the term.
Someone's got to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, daily rituals. One, I like to do a 12-minute meditation every morning. I also take about a mile-long walk every morning, kilometer, 1.6 kilometers.
Not many
for those of
Americans
us who
know that. That's amazing.
Yeah, well, thank you.
You are enlightened.
So those are really the backbone of my daily rituals. There's a lot of other things I tend to do. I tend to have my creative time in the mornings after my meditation, after my walk. That doesn't always happen. Sometimes my schedule controls me rather than me thinking I control it. But those 2 rituals for the formative part of my day tend to help make a pleasant difference in my day.
Yeah. What's your next scary and exciting goal or thing to do?
Well, that's a great question. Putting the cart a little bit before the horse because nothing's signed yet. I'll say it anyway. I'll talk about the cart anyway. I mentioned earlier, it looks like there's going to be a lot of energy put into putting together something for TV, and that's exciting. Yeah. It's intimidating. It's scary. One of the scary elements for me is the surrendering control. Now, granted, who I'll be working with will be people who are very wonderful, very well credentialed, and that still doesn't mean that it's not scary for a part of me to let go of control. Like when I make videos for YouTube and I keep doing that, for the most part, I'm doing everything. Like ideas are mine. I'm writing them. I'm scripting them. I'm acting them. Oftentimes, I'm the cameraman too, and I'm editing everything. That spells control with a capital C.
Yeah, absolutely does. That's a very interesting one, and we're looking forward to seeing you on our TV screens, or phones, or wherever people are watching TV these days.
Who knows if it will germinate onto TV, but apparently an attempt to go in that direction will be had. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's great. Now, if people want to find you, they should go to awakenwithjp.com.
Yeah, that's a great place. And I've even got the free opt-in giveaway to trick people into signing up for my newsletter. So that's awesome.
No way, we have one of them too.
Are you? I think you and I are the only ones that use that strategy.
Because it's free, and who doesn't love free?
Absolutely. I'm losing if I don't go for it. But yeah, so my website and then my YouTube channel, if you're wanting another place, which is also Awaken with JP on YouTube.
or you could probably check out our Facebook page as well, where we share every bit of JP we can get our hands on.
Awesome.
I noticed.
I appreciate you guys doing
just
that.
before I came on this call, Facebook popped up and said, 18 friends have shared JP's latest video. I was like, that's a lot. I've not seen, usually 2 people have shared this link or something. So that's 9 times the average, and that's because the last video is absolute genius, of course.
Thank you, brother.
JP, my brother is a slashie in Hollywood. He's an actor / model, and he makes funny videos as well. And I just thought I'd round us out with a quote from one of his characters, who is Bobby McLean. And Bobby McLean is an American parkour enthusiast. He's not very good at it, but he loves trying. And I'm going to butcher the accent, but that's all right. And he says, if I were a bird, I'd be an eagle, because eagles can fly. And that's how I think of you. You're flying. It's such a joy to see. And of all the birds you could be, definitely a dolphin eagle. And so that shits on pandas as you fly over them there. Thank you so much for joining us on this, and maybe we'll go round 2 sometime. Who knows?
Oh, I'd love it, brother. And hell, even if you don't want to have me, I insist on inviting myself back onto your lovely offering. But yeah, I thank you for having me, Peter. And you are just a delightful person. I love your sense of humor. I feel like I'm a little kid sitting in the sandbox playing with a brother. I love it.
Thank you so much. And for me, the most important thing that I took from today is to not apologize for who you are and just get started. Get busy outputting, because it doesn't need to be perfect yet as you go forward. So thank you, JP. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and look out for the next video coming your way.